So, all right. So, welcome to the Empowered You Retreat. My name is Alina, and I have the honor to host this wonderful event today and tomorrow. I've been hosting online retreats since 2020, and I can tell you that it's so powerful to get together with inspiring, like-minded people like you who are hungry and ready to step into their most confident, powerful, authentic version of themselves. And once again, whether you are here right now or you are watching the replay, I received so many messages from you telling me that you can't be live. So thank you for letting us know. I want to thank you for being here, for trusting us. It's going to be powerful, inspiring, insightful. And not only you'll hear inspiring stories, but also you'll get access to the mindset, hands-on tools and resources that will guide you to show up in confidence, believe in yourself, and dare to create the life you always wanted. So we'll basically touch upon all the important areas of your life, because for you to feel empowered and live an empowered life, you get to have all areas of your life working. So today we'll be here until 9:40 p.m. Central European time. For America, it's going to be 3:40 p.m. Eastern time. There will be 6 experts speaking in the next few hours on finances, empowerment, embodiment, health, how to reduce stress, feminine energy management, vision and purpose, and relationship and resilience. And there will be a 30-minute break from 7:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. CT. This is European time. And another break from 1:30 p.m. For America, it's 1:30 p.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern time. And then we'll continue with topics like creating abundance, time management, creating wealth, manifesting, and health and nutrition. So I'm really excited. I hope that you are too. And tomorrow we'll take everything you learned today and we'll workshop. So make sure that today you take as many notes as possible, and tomorrow it's time for practice. So without further ado, let's welcome our first guest today, Lorna Paul. Okay, I'm going to unmute you.
Thank you. Great.
Thank you so much for being here today, Lorna.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me.
So Lorna is a financial coach. So we are starting this retreat strong, supporting established coaches and service-based entrepreneurs to create true wealth and financial freedom by teaching you how to put your money, invest, create assets so that your money can fully support you to live the life of your dreams. Lorna, thank you so much for being here today. We are starting with such an important topic, finances. So welcome.
Thank you.
First of all, I'm quite curious about what brought you on this path.
Yes, what brought me on this path is experiences. So probably the most influential one was my parents' situation. So in 2014, my father passed away. And growing up, he had a lot of fear around money, and he stressed a lot about money, and he'd always share with us about how we should save for the future and plan for the future and blah 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 blah. And you know, being a kid and all, you just kind of ignore him. But he was all about it, and he had a lot of fears, like money doesn't grow on trees. There was a lot of fear around money in our house. And when he passed away, there was actually nothing in place for my mother. And we were all quite shocked by that, for somebody that kind of, you know, it was like forefront of his mind. And like there wasn't money to pay the mortgage, anything, nothing in place. And only sadly, but fortunately in a little bit of a way, An uncle passed 2 months later, and my mother got, but that was by accident. My mother was to be okay. And I realized from that situation that actually a lot of women don't take charge of their money, and it's not to be left to chance. I remember another situation where I had a boyfriend at the time, not a great boyfriend, but anyway, he, he I remember his nana had passed away, and the will was left to her son, who was divorced from his wife, and everything went outside the family. And so, and then, I have 2 kids and I go to school, and they're single moms and they're trying to do everything. And I realized this is an important area for people. And coaches, we're so busy working on increasing our income that we forget to do the part that actually gives us the freedom. And that's what led me to doing this work.
Thank you so much for sharing. I guess that a lot of people relate to your story in somehow. And it's great that you bring up all these beliefs about money and how we deal with money, not in such an efficient way. So how can we know what's our relationship with money?
Yeah, so over the years, even on my own journey, that I have realized that my relationship with money affects what I do or don't do with it. And it affects all of us, whether we're in debt, whether we're living paycheck to paycheck, whether we're doing the activities to set ourselves up securely for the future. The stories we're telling ourselves about our life and money and who we are with money. Like someone can say to me, I'd love to create wealth and financial freedom, Lorna, but I'm not making my 10K months, therefore I can't do it. Or they're saying something like, my money's a mess, I'm not in the right place to create my wealth and financial freedom. And these stories, or people don't believe they can actually have financial freedom because they're not comfortable with the number, 1.3 million, 3 million, or whatever that net worth number needs to be. If you think that's scary and high, you're not going to do what's necessary to get there. So your relationship with money plays a big part on any area, getting out of debt, increasing your income, or creating the wealth and freedom.
Thank you so much for sharing. So interesting what you said about not feeling uncomfortable with the numbers, and how can we actually start getting comfortable with the numbers?
Yeah, okay, good question. So there's a couple of ways. The first thing is to be aware of where you're at. So an exercise I always give people is digging up what's going on. So what are your 3 biggest behaviors? What's your 3 biggest beliefs and your patterns around money? So knowing what they are, because when you know what they are, you have a choice point and you can shift it. And it's all about growing into what you're comfortable with. Like for some people, 10K per month is like impossible, and for other people that's like peanuts. So how do you get there? How you get there is by stretching yourself with the comfortable with number. So say somebody comes to me and they're like, oh, I'd love to create wealth and financial freedom, but I don't think I can do it because I've never had more than 20,000 in my bank account, let alone 200,000 or 750,000, whatever that is. I always believe, do the action to bring up the gap within you in your thinking. So if you're doing the activities to put your money to work, that's going to bring up the story that's holding you back, and then we get to work through the story. And a really good exercise I can give you guys here is so write down the fact. Say your fact is, I want to create wealth and financial freedom, but I'm not paying myself first. And that's a fundamental of creating wealth, right? So say that's the fact. So you ask yourself, what is the belief? So what's the feeling, and what am I making it mean? So the belief might be, I'm not in the right place with my money to create wealth. The feeling might be, I'm scared or I'm fearful. And then the meaning can be something like, oh, who am I to create wealth, right? So then you ask yourself, what would I love instead? And you write, oh, I'd love to be in a better place with my money so I can create the wealth and financial freedom, da 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 da. And then, so that's like your identity piece. And then looking at where your identity is and where the gap is for you. So you start shifting, because anything you want to create in life is who we're being. So always focus on who am I becoming. So the person that has 750,000 in their bank account compared to somebody that has 2,000 in their bank account, they think differently about themselves and they behave differently with the money, and it's about growing yourself to be there. That sounds like a
So yeah, it's fascinating. I absolutely love it. So wonderful.
I'll share this with
And
you very quickly.
yeah,
There's a really good quote from Jim Rohn, and it is, in order to have more, become more. For things to change, you have to change. For things to get better, you've got better. And another good quote for him is, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. So if you just work on your identity around the money, like how I'm showing up with myself, you will change your life with money.
what a great reminder. And the identity piece, it's available, it's important and relevant for any area of your life where you want to change and that you want to up level, right?
Yes, huge.
And there is this belief a lot of times where, oh, to make money you need money. So what do you think about it, and how can we turn this around?
Yeah, people say, I need money to make money, or I need money to create wealth. No, you don't. You need to make the decision you're creating the wealth. And then the money will appear, because your mind will be open to seeing how to make that happen. And I'll give you an example from my own life. So I remember when I started my wealth journey during COVID, I had a second child. I was on maternity leave. COVID hit. There was no guarantee of a job. I was in a job at the time, and I had no money coming in the door, but I decided, note the word, I decided, committed decision, that I was going to create my wealth, and I started paying myself first. And when I started paying myself first, I got resourceful about how to keep that going and start putting my money to work. And I started investing and gotten the whole thing going. So you don't need money. You need to say yes to yourself, because when you say yes to yourself, you'll get resourceful. Like, it comes back to, how committed are you to making this happen for yourself?
Commitment. That's quite powerful.
People say they want things, but they're not committed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's what Tony Robbins says, that everything starts when you make a congruent, committed decision.
Yeah.
I love that quote.
It's
Right. So
non-negotiable. I'm creating my wealth. Okay. Where do I need to be? Who do I need to be around? Who do I need to talk to? What can I be doing to increase my income? You know, and the ball starts rolling for you. And you can do that now at any level of income.
Wonderful. So I'm curious, do you have like any system that somebody can put into place that would take care of their money, or that would help grow the money?
Yes, so there's a couple of things. When I say wealth system, what I'm talking about is how you take care of your money. So a lot of people, they're living paycheck to paycheck, they're in debt, they're building a house, they're getting married, they're starting a business, they've all these things going on in their life, and money can feel messy. And no matter, or maybe you're an overspender, but what you can do is create your wealth system, I call it. And what that is how you take care of your money is going to either speed up or slow down your ability to create wealth. And I'll talk about how to invest and all in a minute. But so it always comes back to the fundamentals, wealthy habits with money, because you're only ever in three spaces with money. You're either breaking even, you're spending more than you have, or you have wealthy habits with money. So you want to be systemized with your money in that you can have 5 or 7 categories that you put your money into, just to give you something tangible to go away with. Like, you want your expenses, everybody's always shocked when I say this, but it's more doable than you think. If you get your expenses down to 50% of your income, that frees up the space that you can be paying yourself 10% towards your financial freedom, 10% towards your fun, 10% towards gifting others and things like that. So putting your money into a system, and no matter where you are, you're overspending, you're breaking even, you're in debt, or whatever it is for you, if you follow the wealthy habits, you will get back on track with your money. So that's the fundamentals are paying yourself first, developing the emergency fund, and then from that, building your cash safety net, paying you before you pay everybody else, and then putting that money to work. When I say pay yourself first, I say pay your assets first. Put that money to work, because you can go your whole life feeling like you're not in the right place with your money to create wealth. It's a bit like when you have a baby, you're never prepared, and then it arrives and you figure it out.
Great analogy. So get ready, guys, to to get your money. So thank you. And you were talking about investments.
Yeah.
Would that be okay for you to develop a bit on this topic?
Yeah. So what's really important when you're investing, people don't fully understand it, in that they think, oh, Joe down the road, he invests in property or real estate, whichever part of the world you're in, or somebody else invested in the stock market and he got burnt, so I'm not going near that, it's too risky. This guy down the road, or it's in the news that crypto's doing really well, and they jump into these things not really knowing what to do. So when you're investing, there's a couple of important things. One is, it's more important portfolio design. You're following the strategy rather than one is better than the other. Okay. Another really golden tip is diversification. We've heard of that before. So a couple of things, not to make it too complex, just to give you a bit of a picture. So if you're investing in assets, so assets are, you want assets that increase in value or increase in income, because that's what's going to pay for your life when you can no longer work for money, or when you decide to be financially free. So there's tangible and intangible assets. And what that means is, tangible is like your house that takes 6 months before you can sell it, and then you'd have it in cash, or maybe a year. Intangible is like the stock market. You press a button, then you can have it as physical cash. So it's about the overall having a robust strategy and following that. Never mind what the market's doing and all that. That's and there's a couple of principles, like dollar cost averaging, keeping your emotions out of it, let it be boring, all help you be a really good investor. So when I talk about tangible and intangible, there are 5 asset classes that you can be in, and I'm not going to talk anything more complicated than this. Equity, property, fixed income, cash, and gold. And the reason for these is they do different things. So equity and property, for example, or real estate, they grow your money. Fixed income is steady. Gold increases in value, for example, when the economy grows down. It's also a physical structure. And cash is fast liquidating. So when you follow, it really is about following the strategy, keeping your fees low. There's 3 things that affect your wealth. the amount you're putting towards it, the rate of return, and time. And that's why it's really important to not wait on this area of your life and get going. And it's less complicated than it's made out to be in the world. If I can do it, anyone can. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing, and thank you for the encouragement. And it's so, money affects everybody every day. And we are not actually educated, most of us, on how to deal with the money.
No. Sorry, go ahead.
So yeah, and I wanted to add, like, all these people that are, for instance, heritage. You get a heritage, or you win, I don't know, Euro Million or whatever, and then in a couple of years there is no money left. And so how come?
Well, that comes back to your relationship with money. If you're not used to having money, you'll piss it away. Can I use those words? If you're not used to having money, like, I actually watched a very good program on Netflix very recently. It's out now. It's called The Wife and the Footballer or something like that. And he came from a very poverty background, and he just couldn't handle the money when the money came in and blew it all away. It really, like, your relationship with money. I remember when my business made big money for the first time, I wasn't used to it. I worked with horses and earned 1,500 per month. I really had to upgrade my relationship to be able to be comfortable with having money, because my story for so long was, I never have money, I never have money, I never have money. And I played that out until I shifted inside. So getting comfortable, it was back to that question you asked me in the beginning about how do I shift my relationship with money, is there's a really good book called The Having. It talks about you getting comfortable with having money, and that's a really good tip as well.
Reading the book, The Having.
Yeah, or like just working on your relationship with having money. So getting comfortable with different amounts sitting in your bank account. And that's actually one of the things I've noticed as well. People are not very comfortable with keeping money because their story is, I never have money. So getting comfortable with keeping money, allowing it to grow and allowing it to stay in your world will change your life.
So powerful. Thank you for the inspiration and for the motivation to make money. So who's ready to make money? And for somebody who wants to start today to manage their money and create wealth and all this good stuff we are talking about, what's the first step? Where can they start today?
Pay yourself first. And even if you had heard that before, but you're not physically doing it, then you have not heard it. You pay yourself first, and you put it on a flat platform where you can't touch it, and you get going. But educate yourself. And I think it's important to know what you're doing and why you're doing it, so that you get a confidence and an understanding. And even if you want to go work with a financial advisor, you're coming with knowledge to talk to them about what you want, what direction you want to go. And also, just to kind of mention this, is yes, we can do all the physical things about the money, but the best place to start is, well, what are my priorities? What do I want to create in my life? What are my values? Where do I want to direct this money, so I can live a life I love and have that freedom I desire?
Thank you. This sounds wonderful. So from everything you shared today, and it was quite some information, I understand that identity is the first piece, because that defines the relationship that you have with money, and there you can upgrade actually your relationship with yourself so that you can upgrade your relationship with money. Is that correct? And then have a strategy. It doesn't matter really, like, which one. I mean, it does, but just
So,
stick to a strategy.
yeah, people when they invest, they can get a bit, their emotions can take over. So the economy crashes and everybody panics. But if you know how to invest and you know this is the strategy I'm following, like we teach it, you're not going to be wavered by that. And smart investors, like when the economy is crashing, is actually a really good time to buy. But people invest emotionally, and you that's why we talk about stick to the strategy.
Thank you. So it's time to wrap up. Unfortunately, it's so good. I love this topic, and there is always so much to learn and to dig into. And I know you have also an incredible gift for our audience. Would you like to share what it is?
Yeah, it's the wealth checklist. It'll just give you a little checklist of where you are with your money and what you can put in place to move forward with money.
All right, wonderful. I am going to drop it in the chat right now so that you can go straight to it, click on it, and access it. And there, for those who are watching the recording, it's in your email. All the gifts are in your email. All right, Lorna, thank you so much for today.
You're very
Thank you for your wisdom, for your knowledge, and it was really an honor to have you here. Thank you.
Take care, guys.
So, what a wonderful first guest. I am very curious to know what landed for you. Just write in the chat. I'm very, very curious. If we don't know each other, this is one of the things you will notice, that I'm curious. So just write in the chat when you have a moment what landed for you. This is a great way for you as well to focus on what's important for you, and to be able to have like a filter for what landed, what's my takeaway, because your takeaway is something that is important for you, even if maybe right now you don't realize it. It is. So I am going to let in our next guest for today. Okay. Katie, hello. Great to have you here. Oh, spotlight. All right. And can you unmute yourself, or I need to unmute you? All right. No, I need to unmute you. Does it work now?
There we go.
Oh, lovely to see you.
Hello.
Hello. You look beautiful.
It's very hot here in Connecticut today. It's hot. So I have my beach Barbie vibes going on. It's like 90 outside, which is hot for July here. So it's toasty. I'm coming to you from a toasty Connecticut.
That's wonderful, because the other day I was talking to one of my clients in the Netherlands, and she was wearing the same clothes that she's wearing in winter time. So it was a bit like sad to see that exists in some countries. So
yeah, we got a little bit of a heat wave going on, which is, I love being outside, so it doesn't bother me, but it's a vibe. It's a whole vibe.
Thank you. So I'm going to take a minute to introduce you to our audience today. So Katie is a master energy and embodiment coach and the creator of the Shaki Bomb method. She helps smart, spiritually driven, And highly motivated people create big breakthroughs so they can create more of what they want by connecting to their core beliefs, needs, and desires. Her biggest passions include helping people break patterns, smash boxes, step into bigger possibilities, and embrace their true nature. For the past 13 years, Katie has helped people overcome their fears, heal trauma, restore their power, and create big breakthroughs. And her signature method, Saki Bomb, is one of the most creative and fun ways to embody change and growth. I absolutely love having you here again. Welcome back. Um, and first of all, I'm quite curious about what brought you on this healing journey. What made you become an embodiment coach?
Of all things, right? Well, the long story short, I have a background in acting, actually. So as a little girl, I started performing. I started studying singing when I was about 6 years old. I decided I wanted to be a performer when I grew up. So I spent the first half of my life, you know, my childhood, teens and 20s in New York City. I was an actress performing. And so that was sort of my introduction to embodiment work, because obviously performing, speaking, singing, everything has to do with your body. Everything has to do with, you know, using your voice, using your talents, creating stories, becoming characters. And then when I was 29 years old, I got hit by a taxi. And that was the introduction to my spiritual journey and my spiritual work, because at that point, I sort of saw the other side of needing to heal my own childhood stuff, my trauma, self-esteem, self-worth. It kind of all came crashing down on me. And so then I dove into the spiritual work, the energy work, neuroplasticity. And then as I've kind of gone along the path, I've realized that they're actually very similar in a lot of ways. There's a lot of overlap between the two things that I've chosen to do in my life. And so that's kind of how I got here and how I came to create this method, because I had all this training in basically self-expression, you know, creating art. And then the trauma work, I thought, well, if you put it together, you can really create some pretty amazing transformation with the same principles. So that's how I got here.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I'm a bit curious now. So when you got hit by the taxi, what was your what was the first step towards your spiritual journey?
Well, I would say the first thing, so when I got hit by the taxi, I was going through a time in my life when I was really struggling with my self-esteem and my self-worth. I was working in the liquor industry. I was dating abusive men. You know, I had a lot of areas that needed some healing. And I wasn't really aware of it up until then. You know, I pretty much had convinced myself that everything was fine and I was sort of pushing through. And then when that happened, obviously it sort of opened my eyes to this deeper sense of, wait a minute, I shouldn't be feeling this way. And the thing is, when I got hit by the taxi, I was definitely going through a pretty deep, I wouldn't call it a depression, but I was definitely struggling emotionally. And I was in a pretty dark place, and I don't think I realized it. And so when that happened, I kind of took the blinders off and went, okay, I have to deal with this. There's also, when in my childhood, so my family has a legacy. Like, you know, people say, like, what's your legacy? What's your family history? I come from a long line of alcoholics and suicides on both sides of my family, actually. So for me to kind of go through this and realize that I might be struggling in this way was a really important thing for me, because I had come through so much of that. I had seen it. And I think that was also kind of like my biggest fear in life, was I came from all of this sadness and heartache and struggle. And I was kind of terrified on some level that that was going to be similar for me, because that's what people say. Oh, well, you know, that's in your genetics. You're going to have to be really careful. So a lot of it was about waking up and realizing that I think I did have some of that. I was carrying a lot of that sadness through, and also wanting to figure out how I could change it, you know, how I could change the narrative. going forward, because I didn't want to be another one in the long line of family members who struggled in that way. So it was about sort of creating the transformation on a deeper level. And that was why it was so important to me to do it, because it wasn't just about, the healing, and a lot of people do things for different reasons. My reasoning was because I knew on a deeper level that it's almost like I didn't have a choice. Like I couldn't not invest in myself in this way, because my life depended on it. And I think a lot of people in this world obviously have been through trauma, struggle. And I felt like it was very important for me to figure this out for myself so that I could actually share the knowledge with other people, because there are a lot of people that go through what I went through, this feeling of low self-esteem, self-worth. We don't know where it's coming from. We're working really hard to change and to do good things in this world. And yet it feels like it's impossible or it's not working. And so that was the deeper sense of it. That was like the deeper aspect of it.
Thank you so much for sharing. And it's so inspiring when, especially like that you were so aware that this comes from your lineages on both sides, and you just took this, made this empowered decision to break through that. So wonderful. And could you talk, because I guess that there are many people who know what embodiment work is, and many who don't. So would it be okay for you to explain a bit what's embodiment?
Sure.
And how can we use it for healing?
Yeah. It's interesting. Someone asked me yesterday, what's the difference? Is it the same thing as somatic therapy? And I thought that was an interesting question, because they're very sort of aligned, because somatics is basically understanding that you're more than your mind, right? You're not just creating your life based on your mind, your thoughts. We're really working with our whole self, our feelings, our emotions. And so embodiment work to me is learning how to be fully connected with your full self. So using your body as a vehicle for creating transformation. It's like I said, I trained as an actress, and that's the same thing, right? One of the first things you learn as an actor is how to be present in your body. Like, we spend hours and hours in class learning how to just be in our bodies, how to use our bodies to help us actually tell the story, become the character. And I think embodiment work is very similar, because when you learn how to really be present with yourself, right? When you learn how to really listen to what your body is telling you, you're able to resolve a lot of the cognitive dissonance. Because for me and a lot of people I work with, it's never just it's never just in my mind. It's not just a story I made up. It's the fact that when something happened, I didn't allow myself to actually feel what it is that I was feeling. So I couldn't respond in a healthy way, or protect myself, or stand up for myself. Do you know what I mean? Because I was so convinced that it was just I'm imagining this, right? It's not really happening to me. But the body is the part of us that really can't lie. Like, the body knows what is going on. And I think that it's healing, because when you actually start to reconnect, you start to really understand how powerful your body is. And we can love our bodies, and we can be grateful for the fact that we have a body, and then we can partner with our body, and our body works directly with the subconscious. It connects directly with the mind. And it just it's almost like you have more power then to get where you want to go in life, because all of you is in communication, instead of trying to do it with just your mind, or just your gut, or just your heart. I'm sure a lot of people can identify with this idea of knowing something, or even going to a coach, and a coach saying, like, this is your limiting belief, and you just need to believe X, Y, and Z instead, and everything will get better. And you go, okay, great. So I'm going to believe this thing. But then you go to do it, and you're like, I don't really still believe it. I'm telling myself it, but there's something that's not working. It's usually because the body is holding a different belief. So we need the brain and the body to be friends, to get along. And then you can actually really get where you want to go, because you're in alignment. Like, that's really, to me, what alignment means. So That's my perspective on and what the embodiment work is about and how it can really help you change your life, because it's your whole self. It's not just a piece of you. Do you know what I mean? It's like using your whole self to create instead of trying to just use your mind or whatever you choose, your hands, whatever.
Thank you for sharing, and thank you for the reminder. I see it like all the time, like how we think, and we think that the thinking will solve the problem, that the thinking is the solution, and sometimes I say, well, like rationality is overrated, because so many times the response is not there. So more we think, more we get away from the responses that are within. So I really love that you bring this forward. And another thing that I like to talk about is about the fact that you were talking about being present in the body, right? And so how can we get present in the body? Because like most of us,
Right,
the body is going, is the thing that is walking, and there is a total disconnection.
Right.
So how can we connect back and to be in the body? Is there a tip?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's funny. It's interesting because everybody understands we have conditioned responses to trauma. So fight, flight, freeze, the vagus nerve. Everybody's talking about nervous system regulation now. Oh, you need to regulate your nervous system. Well, guess what? You can't regulate your nervous system until you actually repair the connection with your body. Meaning, if you have a tendency to disassociate, disconnect, just sever. A lot of us are really good at the, floating head syndrome, which is like, you just cut the connection off. We're so good at, it's not any different than plugging your iPhone in and unplugging it. You're plugged in, you're unplugged. Anytime we feel uncomfortable, we feel scared, we feel challenged, it's so easy to go, I know how to fix this. I'll just boop, unplug myself. Now I don't feel it. Everything's fine. So it's interesting to understand that that's what we're doing. It's a conditioned response to try and protect ourselves, like anything else. We don't disassociate. We don't disconnect from our bodies. We don't leave our bodies because we think it's cool to be in pain. We do it because it's a survival. It's a way to protect ourselves. And for me, I learned this because I went through so much trauma. And when I went through trauma, well, how did I survive all the trauma? Well, I just left my body. I just learned how to pop in and out. I became a master at not being present. My body was present and I was there and I went through it, but emotionally, spiritually, I wasn't there. And I think that it's really interesting for everybody to start to understand more and more that, one, that's what's happening. And it's a natural thing that happens. It's not, you don't get mad at yourself and go, oh, I'm doing that fight, flight, freeze thing. It's, hey, listen, this is a conditioned response. We do it to protect ourselves. So what do? One, you acknowledge that, you accept it, you love it. And then two, you start practicing bringing yourself back into your body. We don't actually even know what it feels like to be present with our emotions because we're so conditioned to move so quickly. So this is why one of the first things I teach everybody is this, I call it the 5-minute fix. And it's literally spending 5 minutes a day just sitting with yourself, being present with yourself. Put your hands on your heart, feel yourself breathing, call all the pieces of yourself that are not present back, call yourself back, be with yourself. Literally learning how to just be with yourself will change your life more than anything else. Because if you're not really present, all the stuff you're doing doesn't actually have the biggest impact because you're doing it with only a fraction of yourself, right? That's why the embodiment piece is so powerful. Why I say I create big breakthroughs in small amounts of time, because when you're present, right, you can do so much more. It's like trying to create or trying to heal or trying to manifest with only a piece of yourself. You don't get the same, like if you were using a cup of like a rice analogy and you were trying to make rice and you only had 1/8 of a cup, you're only going to get 1/4 of a cup of rice to eat. But if you had a full cup, you're going to have 2 cups of rice to eat. So it's just this idea that programming yourself to be present with yourself, to feel your emotions, to be connected with your energy, your life force energy, that allows you to actually manifest, create, heal at a rapid rate, just because it amplifies the amount of like energy, life force energy you're working with, soul, self, presence, power. You know, that's why Eckhart Tolle, the power of now, right? The power of being present, being in your body, change your life.
Oh, that's so powerful. I love it. And I love the energy that you bring to it. And such a beautiful exercise. So 5 minutes, just sit with yourself, hands on your heart, and connect with your body and whatever you feel.
Yeah.
So easy.
That's the easiest part. Yeah. And then what ends up happening is that all of a sudden you gain, I've been having conversations with a lot of clients about this, and they're like, oh my gosh, like all of a sudden I understand this and I'm having all these breakthroughs, and why is this happening? And I go, because you're learning how to actually be with yourself, which means you're able to give yourself everything you've ever not gotten in life that you're trying to fix, feeling unsupported, feeling unloved, feeling undervalued. All of a sudden you have access to all of, you're very resourced. We'll just put it that way, because your higher self, your soul, your energy, you know what it is that you need to do. You know what it is that you're not getting. You know what that next action is. All of the answers. That's why people say, you know, you really do have everything you need to create what you want in life, right? We're not lacking in resources, love, energy. We actually have access to it. So when you're fully present with yourself like that, all of a sudden, you're able to think for yourself. You're able to protect yourself. The stuff that you couldn't do before, you can do, which shows you that you can actually change, which shows you that you're more empowered than before. And it also helps you heal all of the stuff from your past, because all the past traumas were because we weren't able to respond the way we wanted to. We weren't able to stand up for ourselves. We weren't able to give ourselves what we needed. We didn't feel like we were heard. All of a sudden, you can hear yourself. All of a sudden, you can give yourself what you need. You're like, holy shit, I just became the greatest manifester of all time because I'm actually present. And I can give myself what I need. Wow. Do you know what I mean? And it builds confidence and it builds self-esteem. And it really is a foundational shift that's like the difference between struggling and having life be much easier, just because of this one thing.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And this brings me to a question about authenticity, because you talk about authenticity. And so many people don't even know what it is like to be authentic. So can you say in a couple of words, how can we become authentic, and why is that important in order for us to have a beautiful life and beautiful relationships?
Yeah. You know, it's interesting because someone said to me once, she said, I think you might be the most authentic person I've ever met. And it kind of blew my mind. I thought, me? Really? And she said, yeah, you're just so authentic. You really are yourself. And it's funny because I think that it's something that has come naturally to me, but also at the same time, I've had to work very hard to allow myself to come through, you know, like allow myself to just accept myself. And I think that at the end of the day, that's the secret, right? The secret is we have to accept ourselves for who we are and not judge ourselves and not, you know, blame ourselves or try to stop ourselves or change ourselves. The reason why I was so depressed at 29 and I ended up getting hit by a car was because I felt like the way I was designed in life, like the person I was not someone that was going to ever be happy, because nobody loved me and you know, and it was all these superficial things, right? It was like, because I was an actress, it had to do with how tall I was and how much I weighed and how much money I made. And you know, like all these different things, right? And I'm fighting against the current of, okay, so what do I do about that? I have to lose weight. I have to get taller. You know, it's like I'm trying to solve a puzzle, this impossible puzzle that's not solvable, first of all, because genetically I'm designed to be a certain way. Energetically, I'm designed to be a certain way. You know, emotionally, I'm designed to be a certain way. And here I am trying to change who I am. And I think that's the secret. That's the simple answer, is we have to understand that we are who we are. And we waste a lot of time and energy trying to find the answer. How can I change myself and become a better person so that I can succeed? That's the wrong question, right? The question is, how can I love myself and allow myself to enjoy what I have, right? How can I use my gifts, my strengths, my values to create more of what I want in life? That's authenticity, because it's true. And it's so much easier, you know?
Thank you so much. And we are coming to an end. This is the wrap up moment. And I know you have an incredible gift for our audience. Would you like to share what it is?
Yes, yes. So I have, it's an embodied creation meditation. So basically everything we talked about today, the authenticity, the being present in your body, the learning how to use your emotions, your senses. It's the best taste of how to get started using this method, this creative practice that I've built. It's a simple 10-minute meditation. I've had people use this meditation and go off and start, you know, creating massive change in their life. Everybody get such extraordinary feedback from it. So that's really it. It's this embodied creative meditation. You take it, you use it, gives you a chance to experience yourself, your presence, your authenticity, your gifts, and start seeing if this is, if it's gonna, you know, set you free the way it set me free, in terms of just learning how to really work with all the amazing things you already have. So that's it, the embodied creative creation meditation.
Thank you so much, Katie. I just dropped the link in the chat and you can click on it and access it. For you, if you're watching the replay, your gift is in your email. So, Katie, thank you so much for today. It was wonderful having you back, and I love your energy.
Oh. Thank you. It was wonderful to be here. And it's always wonderful to be able to, you know, share all the different pieces and the facets. And it's interesting, like every time we connect, there's a little bit more. I have like another piece of the puzzle to share. So I enjoy, you know, I always enjoy seeing you and having a chance to chat. And I hope you have an amazing rest of your retreat today. The word is retreat I'm looking for. Retreat. Enjoy the retreat. You're welcome.
Thank you. You're wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. And thank you, everybody.
All right. So I'd still love to know what's your biggest takeaway so far. We are going to welcome our next wonderful guest. Hello, Isabel. Great to have you here. I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself and I'm going to spotlight you. All right.
Well, hello, hello.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for being here today.
I'm just so excited. I've been waiting for this all morning and feeling like it's going to be a great 25 minutes that you and I get to spend together.
Yes, absolutely. And I'd love to quickly introduce you to our audience, if that's okay for you.
I would love that.
All right. So Isabel is a licensed marriage and family therapist, stress management expert, and international speaker and educator. After running a successful therapy practice for more than 10 years, Isabel's journey took a turn when burnout led to the loss of her health and her marriage. In response, she developed a transformative methodology aimed at fostering a life of aliveness, inspiration, and joy. This feel-good life methodology, a simple, proven map derived from neuroscience, psychology, and spirituality, has been successfully implemented with diverse audiences from individuals to corporations such as L'Oreal. For the past several years, Isabel has trained and certified hundreds of people to practice and facilitate the methodology. She's committed to reaching as many people as possible through her online training programs and speaking engagement. Isabel, such an honor to have you here. And I love your topic, and I'm really excited about our conversation.
Yeah, me too. And, you know, you were talking about this whole event is about how to thrive during uncertain times. And it's one of the reasons that I really wanted to be a part of this event, because, oh my gosh, like everybody that I am talking to right now, something in their life is falling apart. Like there's something that they thought they could hold on to, that they thought was going to work out, whether it's business or health or relationships. Or just a pretty serious degree of uncertainty. And so what I love about the methodology is that it helps you choose how you want to show up during these uncertain times, because it's really, really easy to get kidnapped by stress, right? It's actually a evolutionary approach. It's normal that we get stressed out during uncertain times, but there are issues with getting stressed out that really make our capacity to thrive really difficult. So I'm excited to talk about that. Like there are really big issues with what happens to us in the stress response that we want to shift away from during uncertain times.
Thank you so much for sharing, Isabel, and I'm very excited about it too. And I know that for a fact that in stressful times such as uncertainty and real life transitions, right? And life happens kind of every day. In stressful times, we become the worst version of ourselves. So can you explain a bit why is that, and how can we handle it better?
I love that. I always say, I try to say lesser version of ourselves so that we don't already give ourselves a hard time that we're already giving ourselves, but it actually is the least favorable version of ourselves. So this is what's fascinating. So I grew up in a household in which shame was one of the primary factors to make me behave in a certain way. So I have this big passion when I teach my work now to help us understand, like, why do we become who we become, especially when we don't like it? Is there a perfectly good reason to explain that? So in the stress response, what happens is our bodies are perceiving danger, even when there isn't mortal danger in front of us. And so our body does three things. Our brain does three things. First of all, it shuts down our capacity to think clearly. That's called the frontal cortex. So the part of you that is wise and thoughtful and can think about consequences and can look at the past and look at the future in a healthy way and say, yeah, this is the next best step for me to take, is gone. All your impulsive behavior, all your impulsive decisions can only occur in the stress response because your body thinks you're in danger and says, you've got to act now, think later, right? If you're in the street in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. and you're seeing shadows in front of you, you're not going to be like, let me think about whether it's just a lamplight or is it just an intruder. You're going to act now, think later. So that's really great for real dangerous stress responses, but not so great when we have these uncertain times. Number two, we can only see what's wrong. When we are in the stress response, we are wired for what's called the negativity bias. So we are wired for any potential signs of danger, right? Because if we were cave people, which our limbic brain still is that old and that outdated, you want to know if the bushes are moving a little bit. You want to know of any changes. So you're always tracking for what's wrong. In modern life, in our time, when we are living in the stress response, I'm always looking for either what's wrong about myself or about you, about the world. So have you noticed that when you are stressed out, you can't see anything that's right about anything? And then the third thing is that over time, our nervous systems get dysregulated and then are always looking for what's wrong, are always reacting impulsively, are always in this chronic stress, which impacts body, mind, and spirit. And it's really costly because there are no solutions in the stress response. There are no new possibilities. We are stuck in past, future thinking only. And we're missing out on a new way to engage with life that can only be accessed when we're out of the stress response.
Thank you so much for sharing. This is super interesting, and it makes me think right now, like people who are always, for instance, like negative and always looking for problems and always looking for the bad thing that is going to happen. Are they stuck into that response?
Yes, I love that you said that, because again, I never finished the shame piece. What I say in my work is it's not your fault who you become in the stress response. It's an outdated evolutionary response, but it is your responsibility once you know that you're in it, and you learn how to get out of it, which is what the methodology does, to get out of it. So yes, it starts making you have the lens as you do my work to be like, oh, we call it red zone or green zone. Oh, that person's in the red zone. And literally, I want each of you to think as you're listening, whether it's live or replay, think about who you become in the stress response or the red zone. Think about the way you become frustrated and irritable and judgmental and cynical. You might be someone who's very reactive and gets angry, or you might be somebody who gets depressed. When we are in the red zone, we can't see ourselves, our way out. We don't see another point of view because we're not supposed to be seeing another point of view. So what the kind of compassion that can be applied to yourself once you learn this work, like, oh, I'm in the red zone. That's why I'm showing up this way. Alina, you can then apply it to other people and say, oh, that's why. You know, I actually did a very quick reel yesterday that I said, I wish I had known this work when I was a kid, because I wish I had understood that the way the caregivers who were abusive, I grew up in an abusive environment, I wish I had known they were in the red zone. And I wish I had known it wasn't personal. Like, just because I took it against myself and I thought there was something horribly wrong with me, but it was actually their incapacity to get out of the chronic stress response that made them show up in such horrible, abusive ways towards me. And it doesn't excuse it. It doesn't excuse it, but it helps you understand it. And in the end, have you come back to your center?
Thank you. And this is such a great reminder, the piece around shame. And thank you for sharing your own life experience, because I see that a lot of people don't feel really comfortable with sharing those pieces, but it's so healing when we are able actually to share what it was and to name it and understand that it was not our fault and we didn't do anything wrong, and it's time to update the system. So how does this impact our relationships?
I love that. So when you read my bio, you saw that I was because of my chronic stress, because of my burnout, I got diagnosed with adrenal exhaustion, which is an it's when your adrenals stop working because you've been, so stressed out, like your body's like, enough, I can't do anything anymore. Even your emergency battery of energy is gone. But the other thing that occurred is my relationship died. My husband and I divorced. And we were in the red zone all the time for a few years before. We had 3 kids, we had the beautiful house, we had everything. But because I was in chronic stress and he had his own issue, right? Of course, it wasn't just me. All we did was fight. All we did was trigger each other. All we did was reactive to each other. All we did was blame each other. I mean, that's like the height of the stress response. And we could not see who we had fallen in love with anymore. Like we could not see it. That's the thing, people. As you listen to me, I hope you get that when you're fully in the red zone, you can't see straight. And you're not supposed to see straight. You're supposed to see only the potential danger and hyper focus on that. You're not supposed to see everything. And so we divorced. And that's when I decided, okay, my health is gone, my relationship is gone. I've got to find a different way to live my life. And I didn't want to just go back to like, you know, just be someone who had a very, very small life. I still wanted to have a life where I made impact, but where I wasn't so burnt out all the time. And so that's when I created this methodology. And over time, Brian and I started healing first ourselves and then each other. And now we've been together 5 years and we have an amazing relationship. And if you had told me in 2014, which is when we divorced, that we would ever be together again, I would have been like, you are joking, right? So for those of you who are going through relationship issues, I can't promise you what will happen if you do this work, but what I can promise you is that you will find a way to heal yourself that will either bring you back with your partner or in a better relationship with your partner, or will have you feel good and ready to move on if you need to move on for your relationship.
This is such a wonderful story. So thank you for sharing. Is the soap opera part that I love. Very inspiring. And now I'm very curious to know more about this methodology. It sounds like magic.
Yeah, is it okay if I share the screen? Are you able to give me that? If not, I'll just describe it.
It's totally okay. I am I'm managing my tech here. So
okay, let me know. And if not a problem, but it was going to be so helpful if I can share the screen.
I think I can do that.
And if
oh, I know how I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it like this. All right.
All right, so let me see if I can. Okay, great. You did it. All right, so I want to show you from current slide. All right, so this scale, and I'm inviting you to please not underestimate this scale. This scale has helped hundreds of people learn to stop living in the stress response. So my work works very simply. It says awareness plus action equals transformation. So first we have to become aware of where we are at on what I call the feel-good scale. And if you will see the scale, it has a red, yellow, green light. So it looks like a traffic light. It has 1 to 10. And the red zone, as I briefly explained, is the stress response. And who we become in the stress response, as Alina and I spoke about, is not who we want to be. Like nothing that we want. We literally can't get anything that we really want in the red zone. And so the whole point of the methodology is to help you recognize, right? Bring awareness to where you are at on the scale. And if you are in the red zone or even the yellow zone, you want to learn to shift yourself to the green zone. And again, green zone is where intimacy, creativity, joy, playfulness, intuition, infinite possibilities, everything lives in that green zone. And so because we have such limited amount of time, usually in the work, I then to help people recognize where they're at, what the signals are that lets them know they're in the red zone. But I'm going to give you the secret right away of the 3 steps. So the action part, let me go back to the current slide. So once you recognize that you're in the red zone, right, and you learn, like, what are my signals? I start thinking really fast. My throat starts becoming tight. My belly gets anxiety, like, uh-oh, I'm heading towards the red zone or I'm in the red zone. The first step that you're going to take is you're going to not believe anything you're thinking, feeling, or wanting to do. And I want to explain this to you. So I actually found out last week that my right-hand person in my business, because she's pregnant and is feeling really poor, actually just resigned, right? So talk about uncertainty. Like she's the person that holds everything, all the keys to my work. And so I've just been tracking. I wanted to give you an example right? The stories from the red zone are saying, you're never going to find anybody else like that. Your business is going to fail. You're not going to succeed. Like all the things that the red zone says, you're in danger, Isabel. You better start thinking these negative things. So for me, the stop step, even though it seems so minor, is incredibly helpful. Like, stop, Isabel. Stop. You are in distortion. You are only oriented towards that negativity bias. You can only see the negative side of things. And any thoughts you're having are distorted. And so stopping can be a humongous step. So that's step number one. Step number two is to slow down and breathe, right? You've realized you're in the red zone. You're stopping yourself. You're not going to keep maintaining that story, right? Because the story of fear and negative prediction wants to keep going. I'm sure you've all been stuck in there at some point in your life, especially during uncertain times. When you slow down and breathe, you actually, remember that frontal cortex? You start bringing blood back in the front part of your brain, your rational brain, and you start being able to think more clearly. And it is actually the most powerful signal for your body that you're not in danger. So taking at least, 5 to 10 deep abdominal breaths. Nobody has to know you're taking them. You can do this in the middle of a meeting. You can do this in the middle of a fight. It doesn't matter. You don't have to close your eyes. Just breathing lets your body know. And then the final step is you go, right? So think stop, slow down, go. You'll never forget it once you see this work. And you're going to do an activity that makes you feel sustainably good. And again, it seems like, well, that's so simple. What actually happens is if you do that activity and you really notice it, like, oh, I'm at this conference, I get to talk about this work, even though part of me was in the red zone this morning. I love sharing this work and I really feel it. What happens is your memory starts changing. Instead of only holding on to negative information, you start training it to remember positive memories too. So it's actually a really important step. And so I want to go back to the 3 steps. There's stop, slow down and breathe, and go to a feel-good habit. And again, if people want to learn more, I have a free ebook that actually goes deeper into that, helps you pick the habits you want to be doing, helps you let go of the habits that don't work. But I wanted to show you before I stop sharing the screen, this is the methodology. You can work this for the rest of your life and it will never stop working with you. You first bring awareness. Where are you at on the scale? If you are in the red or the yellow zone, you practice the 3 steps. And I promise you that every time you make that choice about what kind of a human being do you want to be to the triggers of life, especially during those uncertain times, you start building a repertoire of being a green zone human being. And the more you're a green zone human being, the more you attract green zone experiences, right? Just like the more you're a red zone human being, the more you attract red zone experiences. And it's choice by choice by choice by choice. You practice a new life and you get to thrive, which is the whole point of your incredible event today.
Thank you so much, Isabel. I love your methodology. It looks very effective. And I can say that the second step, it's marvelous, creates magic. And it's such an easy way, right, to go back towards inside of ourselves and go towards the green zone. It's why we don't practice it more. So
well, because that we don't practice it more, right? This is where you can always go back to it's not your fault. Your body does not want to be thinking, well, maybe I'm not in danger. I always tell the story of I used to live in Boulder. And if I was hiking and there was a golden shape coming down, my body doesn't want to go, is it a golden retriever or is it a mountain lion? It doesn't want me to slow down and take a few breaths. It wants me to run and then I'll figure out whether it was a golden retriever. So I want to tell people, you in the red zone don't have a choice, which is why I teach so much the recognition of signals in the work. We spend a whole week on signals and practice that for the whole 12 weeks of the course. You've got to, the sooner you recognize that you're heading there, the quicker you can shift out of it and not get kidnapped by it. Now, over time, you'll get kidnapped less and less and less and less. Right now, when I'm in the red zone, I'm like, oh, I notice and I practice the work. But boy, I used to go into the red zone for weeks and months sometimes, when my relationship wasn't working. It was, it's where I chronically lived. And a lot of people live chronically in the red zone.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it looks like your course creates magic as well. And I love to hear about your incredible gift that you have for our audience.
Yeah, so if you go to www.thefeelgoodlife.com/habits, are you able to put that in the chat, Alina? So thefeelgoodlife.com.
It's in the chat.
Okay, what's that?
It's already in the chat.
Great, /habits. What it is, it's this beautiful ebook that teaches in more depth the methodology itself. That's part one. Part two, it helps you build the habits for your health, your relationships, your career, and your connection to spirit. You're going to choose what habits actually create more stress in the long run and which ones create less stress. We call them feel-good habits versus false good habits. And then the third part is a one-page printout. So you can have the methodology, you print that, you put that everywhere in your house. That's what people do with the habits that are just yours. Because in the moment of being in the red zone, you don't want to be thinking, wait, what are the steps? What do I do? What are the habits that I picked? So it's really a 3-part ebook that is really going to help you go deeper into this work and practice it, because this work, like any good work, requires practice. I do a lot of listening to Joe Dispenza, and there's a video that I was listening to yesterday. He literally says, when you find yourself reacting, pause, breathe, and make another choice. I'm like, he is talking about the methodology, and what he said is, it's not like we will ever stop reacting. We will start catching it sooner and sooner, and then have the tools to know what to do. So this is what I'm leaving you with. Beautiful, participants. I'm giving you a tool that will help you recognize when you're in a reactive, fear-based mode, stress-based mode, and the tool to get out of it. And every time you choose that, you're rewiring your brain and you're changing your life. So I hope you will download the book and you will practice this work, because it changes people like nothing I've ever seen.
Thank you so much, Isabel. And the link is in the chat. Please click on it so that you can get access to it. If you're watching the replay, the access to the gift is in your email. So thank you so much, Isabel. It was an honor to have you today. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and all these powerful teachings. Thank you.
I'm so grateful that you had me. And for those of you going through uncertain times, like, if you look at it from the red zone, it's just scary and overwhelming. If you look at it from the green zone lens, then it's an exciting time filled with opportunities that you might have never thought about. So just stay green and let life create miracles for you. See you later. Thank you so
Isabel.
much.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Thank you. Bye. Okay. Yeah. Lots of good stuff today. So I'd love to hear what landed for you. What's your biggest takeaway so far? You can write it in the chat. I'd love to read you. All right. So I am right now going to find our new speaker. Okay. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, loading your, I don't know what's, no. I don't know what's happening, but something was happening.
Yeah.
Jonita, great to have you here today. Thank you for for being here. 1 second. I am going to introduce you in 1 second. Yeah, you look beautiful.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, speak to you again, sister.
Thank you. Me too. All right. So our wonderful guest right now is Jonita D'souza, born in India, settled in England. She's a self-leadership mentor for women, a feminine lifestyle and creatress of feminine empress codes, assisting modern-day busy women who struggle with burnout, body love, and authentic expression to reconnect with their feminine. And sensual energy using the ancient feminine Taoist Tantric somatic arts so that they can create a lifestyle that is fulfilling, nurturing, and pleasurable. Jonita is also a certified life coach, NLP practitioner, master hypnotherapist, and combines the teachings of Indian feminine mysticism and shamanism in her work, facilitating monthly moonside circles, online workshops, and sacred feminine retreats. Wow, such an honor to have you back here. And
I'm excited too. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here with you all.
And I'm very excited about our conversation. Yesterday, when I was preparing the questions, I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to ask you about this and that. First of all, I'm quite curious about what brought you on this healing path and getting into all these healing methodologies, because you do so many different things. So
yeah, I will try my best to keep the story as short as possible. So all of these methodologies that I am able to teach today have stemmed out of my own experience of going through the dark nights of my soul and taking myself through the processes. I was able to understand what exploring femininity really meant. I come from India and I grew up there, spent my early 20s there, up to my early 20s there. And I somehow was fascinated from the Western world. I felt like women in the Western world were free. And even though I had a good job and a very privileged family, I was working as an IT engineer in India, I could not just feel free and expressed as a woman there. And my desire somehow led me to London, UK, and I moved to England. And I felt that was it. This is what an independent woman life feels like in the West. Like, according to me, all Western women were free because the only influence I had was Hollywood movies and MTV about the West. So that was my illusion. And when I got to London and I started working there, I got a nice job. I made some girlfriends, and the 9 to 5 job, Monday to Friday. And on Fridays, when you go out to have drinks together, then when they start sharing about their lives, their feelings, and when I got to know more, what I noticed is that so many of them were so tired of putting on a mask of looking good to be accepted in the society, to be accepted at work, to be favored in many ways. And inside something was missing. So I felt like it wasn't about being, and they looked up to me saying that, wow, you come from a background so rich in culture and value and traditions and goddesses and all of that, so you must be so lucky. And that dawned me, and I realized it wasn't about being in the East or being in the West. It's a phenomena that we women are experiencing all around the world, of different lineages, backgrounds, cultures, continents, races, that there has been a deeper sense of unfulfillment. And then life throws us into those moments. And it happened to me also when I was met with a deep depressive state. I was dealing with the death of my father. I was dealing with healing a skin disease called psoriasis. I was in an abusive relationship. So everything was just low in my life, and having a good job and financially free did not work out for me. Just did not feel like this is what is enough, just to go to work to pay the bills, and something is really missing. So my depressive state literally led me to inquire, find a mentor out of a lot of triggered conversation, and she started showing me different modalities of the feminine that I could work with. And the more I was working with her, the more I could connect to why my life was like this, why people around me are like this, how am I relating to the world. So it kind of opened me to a whole new range of identifying my essence through my being, and also influencing my surrounding through my being. So I started practicing exploring femininity, and I wanted to gather a group of women with me in London, because at that time the social circle that I had thought that I have lost my mind. I'm all into woo woo and all of stuff. So I wanted to call in women who were feeling like me and wanted to experience and practice these modalities. So I set up a meetup group called Exploring Femininity, and within a month I had around 800 women join in. I was looking for 2 other women to practice with me in my bedroom, or sorry, in my living room, but looked like there were so many women feeling in resonance. So I kept going back to my mentor, and she said that you can start working with all those ladies as you're healing yourself, and keep practicing being authentic, and share from this place of not knowing but really desiring to connect. And that's how my company was born, and all of these modalities that I went through became part of my work. And it was a learning curve. It was totally unintentional, to be really honest.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I can see like how the genuinity and the passion in you while you are sharing. And it's really inspiring. And thank you for doing this. Like, especially nowadays when it looks like everything is going a bit upside down.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, and what is the beautiful thing and about the entire journey was that it was so unintentional that the other women started connecting with this authenticity of the vulnerability that I was coming up with. I was really in my early 20s. I was 22, 23, and there were older women who were mothers, who were going through menopause and like have experienced more of life than me. But then there was this connection and ancient memories that that's come when women come together, come alive. And that's what we got to experience. And through my healing, this became a journey of sharing with others.
Thank you. And I love to know, because you talk about being in your feminine and modalities for femininity, but you also talk about self-leadership and self-leadership myth that are hurting women. Can we talk a bit about this part? I'm very curious to know more.
Yes, it really builds onto this story, I feel right now, because we've been taught leadership in a very contorted way, in the sense there's a different power dynamic of there's one leader out there, and then there are followers, and the leader has the authority and everyone else listens. So it's kind of like a different kind of power dynamics. And when you start working with the feminine, you realize that leadership is not more about power from, but it is about power with. And it's all about bringing people together. It's not about the linear road, but it's like a circle where everyone is equal and everyone's energies influence each other. So when I started discovering meeting more people with in this kind of role, it opened up my eyes to new ways of leadership that was available for me. So I understood a very vital factor that is often ignored in leadership concepts, where if you look at leadership definition, it is all about influencing others. You lead and you influence, so then people follow. Whereas self-leadership is all about is about your individual ability to influence your own self through your own thoughts and beliefs in order to achieve a desired outcome. And for me, this made so much sense. And given the times right now, there is so many conflicts and there are so many contradictory views. Especially became very apparent to me in 2020 when everyone was opinionated and everyone had differences of opinion. But we still want to be together. How do we still stick together? So that's when strong aspect of self-leadership came out for me, and I have been working and reframing that in my work, in my personal life around self-leadership, which is like constantly using influence on my own self. Like if I don't influence my own self, guess what, people around me are so ready to influence me, right? And then we go back into this into this power dynamics of giving into someone else's vision.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, so that's what self-leadership is for me.
Thank you for sharing and for bringing forward this concept of leadership is the with, not from. And it's true that most leadership, I teach personal leadership, and people normally think that personal leadership is, oh, I need to be a manager or how to have a leading position.
Yeah.
To learn personal leadership is no. You just get to learn how to lead yourself.
Exactly. Yes, because that's what we've been taught. Leadership means being out there and you have to be on a stage and, speak to people and tell them to obey, right? And it doesn't suit everyone's personality. For example, I am an introvert, and so for me to be in leadership role requires a lot of energy to be out there. However, when I am exercising self-leadership, then it comes out naturally to me, because now I'm not trying to prove anyone to anything, or vice versa. But what I know is that I am strong in my own values and thoughts and beliefs, and it doesn't really matter if you believe me or not. It matters if we can connect on any level, because connection is so important in self leadership. And what I really feel is that we've been told that maybe I can talk about the myths. It helped me so much to break down these ideas of leadership as a woman, as an introvert woman. We've been told that you have to be perfect, or you have to be healed, right? Like you have to have sorted all your shit in order to lead. And this was really contradicting to where I started, how I started. And also I feel it puts a lot of pressure on the leaders itself. So I feel that when you feel that you have an important point of view, then it becomes your responsibility to lead yourself with that view, without trying to figure out what else do I need to heal first. Because at every level, healing happens. I spent the last 4 years in India, and I was traveling and I was learning, I was teaching. So when I was sitting with the mystics, it was really funny because they wouldn't give me any specific answers to any questions or any concept. It all meant to what I could decipher from the concept. And that's exactly what I opened my eyes to, how we have kind of linearized healing. Like there are 5 steps to healing, and there's this journey to healing, like you do this and you are healed. But in my opinion, this is not what life is. Healing is every moment in life through, as we breathe, as we live, as we are present, we are in a state of healing. So it never gets done, it never gets completed. We, of course, have more understanding. Of course, we have clearance of more and more emotional gunk baggage, but healing is a continual journey without a start to the end. And when we realize that, we will stop looking for that healing to be completed, that certification to be taken before I'm able to show up in my message to the world. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing the myth. I guess that a lot of people identify themselves in your stories and your examples, because basically it's what we were taught. And it's funny that you talk about you are not done with this journey, because I thought when I started my healing journey, I was thinking, oh, I'm going to do this program and then I'm done. I'm going to do this and then I'm done. And then I realized, oh, actually, no, I will never be done.
Yeah, and did you stop? You did not stop, because there's
No,
always something
absolutely.
yeah, there's always something to heal. And in classical tantra and Ayurveda, healing is seen as an energy and as a lifestyle. It's not a thing to be accomplished. It is living life. When I look at the tree and its beautiful flowers and leaves and and the waves, and I just smile to myself, in that moment I am healed. You know, so that's healing. Healing happens when you look at your child and with that innocent smile, and you feel something in your heart, like, you know, open up. That's healing. So healing happens all the time. It's a lifestyle, it's a process, it's an energy, and this energy requires our fuel. It requires our awareness. And so, of course, doing healing work is really important, because we collect a lot of emotional baggage, or emotional residues as we go through life, and we can work through those healing modalities. But you are not required to heal more in order to lead. Wherever you are, you have to understand that you need to have more compassion and courage to lead. Compassion that what you are going through, what someone else is going through, and the courage to realize that you have something that can help others. You know, if you have compassion and courage, I don't think you need confidence or the need to feel worthy to lead. And that has been a radical breakthrough for me, to keep my mind from, you know, creating stories that I'm not good enough to go and share what I have to speak to the world, because, you know, I have issues.
As we all have.
Yeah.
Just a secret. Don't tell anybody. But it's so relieving to hear this, and especially coming from leaders and from people who, you know, who've been doing who've been on the healing journey and are doing great, and are creating the beautiful things that they've been dreaming about. And this is inspirational, and this is what we want to see in order for us to step forward. At least this is my opinion.
Yeah, this is, and you know what? It also takes off the burden from other leaders. It takes out judgment from us. You know, when we see other leaders not doing good or making a mistake, we're like, they should have done better. They're the leader. Like, we're so easy to dehumanize the person who leads, right? So it's really about courage and compassion. Like, it's not about perfection. It's really not about perfection, but I think the more we work with our essence, our energy, then people connect with us on different levels. Even if you make mistakes as a leader, the essence talks more. And this is what we've got to cultivate, this courage and compassion to lead. So yes, so this was quite relieving for me, and also it helped me improve or become, I would say, less judgmental towards, you know, other leaders who I felt like they could have done better, you know, because we are so quick to judge, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. This is so refreshing. I love it, and I love to ask you so many more questions. And we are coming. We came to an end already. Oh, yes. So, I love you too. I know you have an incredible gift for our audience. Would you like to share what it is?
Oh yes. So
I have the link to it, so I'm going to drop it in the chat. You can already access it.
yes. So my free gift is called the Dark Feminine Listening Practice. And a big part of stepping into leadership is for us women to work with our dark feminine wisdom. It is very different from doing shadow work. Shadow work is looking into your unhealthy traits of the feminine, whereas the dark feminine is looking into where you yourself have repressed your own power. And so this work is really powerful, and I feel that this is the missing component to us women leaders. Once we are able to integrate this dark feminine wisdom, then we are able to stand in our imperfections much more easily, gracefully, I would say. So that's an audio practice for women to just listen to the dark feminine energy inside of them.
Thank you so much, Jonita. Thank you for the gift. Thank you for your beautiful energy, for your wisdom, for sharing you. So inspiring and refreshing. And next time we need 30 minutes, 40 minutes or something, because this is far too short.
Yeah, just flew by. That's what happens when you're having good time.
Yes. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you. Have a great time.
All right. Are you having fun? I find it fascinating to hear all these stories that are just beautiful, inspiring. And we have our next speaker here. All right. I'm going to practice my new IT skills because I made some changes in the Zoom settings for today. So, hello, Kasia. Great to have you here.
Can you hear me? Okay, good.
Yes, and sorry for being a bit late. We went over time.
That's all right.
So I'm going to quickly introduce you to our audience today.
Great.
Yes, so we are going to have a very powerful conversation with our guest, Kasia Bradford. Kasia is an empowerment coach, and her journey is a living testament to the power of resilience and personal development. From overcoming significant challenges as an immigrant teenager to enduring personal losses, Kasia has navigated through life's toughest trials. Transitioning from a successful 25-year career in accounting and IT to launching a thriving coaching enterprise, she embraces reinvention and transformation. With over 13 years of experience in life coaching, Kasia is dedicated to guiding individuals on their journey from confusion to extraordinary achievement. Her mission is to empower ambitious individuals to craft lives filled with empowerment and success. Kasia, it's such an honor to have you here.
I'm so excited. Thank you so much.
Me too. And I also need to add that Kasia is one of my closest friends. So I'm extra excited to have you here. So we are talking about vision, and I love to hear why is vision so important? Why do we need to have a vision, and what's vision for those who are not clear what's vision?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Let's start with that because I think Well, yeah, the word gets thrown around a lot right now, especially in personal development, but most people are like, well, I don't even know what that means. What is my vision? And so, yes, what is that? When we think about vision, we really want to think about who are we going to be in the future? Because who we are today is not going to give us what we want to create in the future. So unless we're living a life that we're perfectly content with and we want nothing to be different, then maybe we're not so concerned about vision. But most of us want something different. We are thriving for different things in different domains of life, whether that's health or relationships or finances, children, family, all those things. If we want something different, well, we kind of have to first conceptualize it in our mind. We have to have a vision for it, a concept. So when we talk about vision, that's what we're really talking about, is just what's my heart's desire? What do I really want? What can I see if my life was the way I would want it to be, not the way that it is today, but what I really want, what I really desire, what would that look like? And so some people, again, like have a hard time, and it's a process. It's not something that we necessarily connect overnight, because it's a process, especially for people who are very cerebral or analytical like myself. It took me a long time to actually tap into my vision. People who are very creative have a much easier time with this concept, but people who are very pragmatic have a harder time with it. So again, it's a practice, but where you really want to start thinking about it's, if things were the way that I would want them to be, what would that look like? What would that feel like? What would that smell like? For me, I know I had to go to what would things smell like? Because that was the sense I could tap into. I couldn't necessarily visualize things, but I can smell nature, and I know that like I want to wake up and I want to smell trees and grass. And so that was part of my vision, as for example, of where I want to live, is I know I need to be surrounded by nature. Like that was my vision. And when I'm not, I just don't feel at home with myself. So I hope that kind of gives a context of what vision and getting to what that is makes sense.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you also for bringing the smelling example, because I think that a lot of times we just throw everybody in the same basket and we ask people to just operate in the same way and think in the same way. And okay, like now create a vision and imagine it. And my mom, actually, she was telling me that they were doing a class and the teacher was guiding them into vision without really guiding them. And she's very analytical into her head. So she had to imagine things. And she was like, I couldn't imagine anything. Right. So it's important, from what you're saying, I hear that it's important to find a tool and something that works specifically for you and for your own personality. So thank you for bringing it up, so some of us don't feel weird when the normal thing doesn't work for us. Next vision, we have purpose. Are vision and purpose connected?
Absolutely. So if we don't know, and again, Alina and I come from a transformational background, so we talk a lot about like what we stand for in the world. So that's really kind of our purpose in life. It's like, what am I here to create? Whether, you know, again, in your personal life, in your career, in your family, it doesn't, again, don't ever compare. It's what's important to you is perfect. And I think sometimes we can get into self-judgment and self-beat up because, again, we kind of try to fit into the societal things. But your purpose is yours and your purpose is perfect. And yes, our vision is connected to our purpose because they kind of drive each other. Our vision, for example, when my son was born, I had a vision. I hope you don't mind me using personal examples. I hope that helps people in understanding. So when he was born, I realized that I had a vision for changing my family dynamic. I didn't want to raise him the way that my brother and I were raised. So I had a very strong vision of where I wanted to lead that. And in that, my purpose became being the best parent that I can be. And so the two are aligned. And so they're not disconnected. And I think that it's very important to, and again, it will take some time, because if we're unclear of what our vision and our purpose is, I mean, oftentimes people, especially now, I'm finding a lot in the world, is like, I don't know who I am. We've gone through all these transitions around the world, all the uncertainty. We're also, you know, a lot of us are going through transitional phases in our life, whether our kids are leaving home or we're changing careers, and we kind of get stuck in this, what's my purpose here? But when we can connect to the vision, the purpose will reveal itself too. So does that make sense?
Absolutely, and I love it. So from what I understand, it's very important to have your vision clear, and the purpose, it's linked to the vision.
That's right. That's right.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you. I want to make sure that I get it correctly. And you also talk about developing your future self, which I find this wording very appealing. So what do you mean by that, and how can we do it?
Yeah, so that's why vision's so important. Because again, whatever is happening now, that's our identity and that's our current self. But it's only our future self who can create that big vision that we have. Now, one thing with vision too is that oftentimes we don't have a big enough vision. I think we're afraid to dream. We're afraid to declare really big things, probably out of fear of looking crazy to people who maybe are not on the same page as us in life, or maybe we're not surrounded by people who are growth minded, and that's so important. And so when we, like, if I'm sitting here right now, I have big visions, as you do, and I'm sure everybody here does, otherwise you wouldn't be here. Who we are today, this current identity, this current self is not going to get there. So what we really need to be doing on a daily basis is connecting one to our vision, and then asking the question of, okay, how does that future self who's living this vision, how do they act? How do they talk? What habits do they have? And then building that in bit by bit by bit into the future self, so the future self can evolve, into the present self, so that the present self can evolve into the future self that will create that vision. So the vision has to be huge, but we start with little bits connecting, okay, what will that look like? What's that future self going to look like? And what micro habits can I bring into today to start building myself so I can get to that future self? I sometimes do this silly thing with myself where, like, sometimes I have a thought and I'm like, I just know I want to do this because my future self will thank me. And I mean, tomorrow I'm going to already be like a next version, right? We're going to be that future self. And so many times I'll go, I'll find the thing that I did when I had the thought, and then I'll be like, thank you, past self.
Mm-hmm.
So it's when we know that we're doing things to really serve our future self, because everything that we do today, we're either serving that vision in the future self, or we're diminishing the vision in our future self. And the choice is ours. So
thank you for the powerful reminder. And I love what you said about, like, just do something that your future self will be grateful for.
yeah.
And so I know that you talking about vision and about future selves. I know that you have great relationships in your life, and I so much admire your relationship with your son. Kasia, she's an amazing super mommy. And and I want to ask you, like, what's your secret to have such a beautiful relationship with your son? And in general, you know, because you have beautiful relationships in your life, but I love your relationship with your son. I admire you a lot. So
That one, I'm almost like getting a little teary-eyed because that really was driven by vision, even though I didn't have the language for it then. So my son is going to be 18 on the 16th of this month. So I mean, we've had a long journey. I've technically raised an adult, just about. And when he was born, there was just something in me that intuitively knew that things had to be different, that I needed to do things differently. And that vision became very clear, even though I didn't have the language for it. So sometimes too, you know, because that's when I kind of started really embarking on my personal development journey, was around the time that he came to be on the planet. And I didn't have these words that we're using today, but that relationship was built on vision and commitment. Those two things. I was extremely committed to creating something different, to breaking patterns, generational patterns. And so, and so the reason why we have an amazing relationship today is because I went to work on me. An innocent baby doesn't need to do any work, right? But they will show you everything that we need to work on, just as other relationships, romantic and otherwise. Like, I mean, we can only grow with people, but kids have this amazing way of showing you everything. And when, you know, you can't get away from a baby, so you come up against yourself all the time. And so but the commitment was strong. And, you know, like now when I think about, because I also don't have very close relationships with my parents, that's not my vision for my son and I. So again, everything that I'm talking about, everything is vision driven. And even now, like with health and stuff, you know, I'm thinking my vision for my health is very much tied to my relationship with my son, because he's super active. And then I think, again, big vision, we have to think far and big, you know, I think grandkids, and I want to be active and doing things. So this morning, Alina touched base, and I was like doing jump rope and weights in my backyard, because staying active is part of that bigger vision. So I know my future self, if it's going to be able to do all these things, then the present self has to act in accordance with what I want the future to look like.
beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And it's so much fun to have you on and to hear you and do this interview and learn more about you. Yay.
Yeah, I'll just want to say that the more that we can connect to our vision and what our future self gets to be, because it's our choice. But if we are disconnected from that future self, then we really make poor decisions for ourselves today in the present. So the more that we can stay connected to vision and future self, the more that we take empowered decisions, because we're really like that vision pulls us forward. We're less tempted by bad choices, like the immediate gratification stuff, you know, the sleep-ins, the poor nutritional choices, or snapping at somebody, right? Like, again, going back to the relationship with my son, I know what will create breakdown in that relationship. And sometimes my past self, who is very reactive and likes to yell and snap, wants to do it. And then I have to get conscious and present, and in the moment realign to, that's not my vision. That's how I always say this to myself in my head: this is not my vision. And then take an empowered decision from vision. So anyway, I just wanted to share that too, because I think that, you know, like we talk about these things, but it's like, how do you actually implement it? It's like a daily practice to be conscious to what is that vision. And when stuff that is not part of the vision shows up, to kind of be like, that's not my vision. So
Absolutely, so powerful. So unfortunately, it's time to wrap up already. I was saying before to Jonita that this interviews talks need to be 30 minutes at least, because it's not it's not possible like this. Too many things to talk about. It feels like it's too short. So I know that you have an incredible gift for our audience. Would you like to share what it is?
Yes.
I'm going to drop the link in the chat just for your info.
Awesome. Yeah. So really quickly, the gift I have for everyone today is my guide to unleash your inner power in 24 hours or less. So if you really are at a place where you're like, I've been giving my power away, I'm ready to reconnect to my power, and I want to get there fast, this guide, if you follow it from beginning to end, it's only 4 pages. It's super powerful, and you'll be able to unleash your inner power in under 24 hours. So that's my promise, and that's my gift to you.
Wonderful. Such a powerful gift. I'm excited about it. I'm going to check it out. Thank you so much, Kasia, for being here today and for sharing your amazing energy and joy with us. And yeah, I love everything you shared about vision. Powerful.
Thank you so much, Alina. Thank you so much for doing this event, and thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. All right. All right, all right. So who's excited about vision here? Make sure you go in the chat and you click on the link so that you can access the gift, Kasia's gift. And for those of you who are watching the recording, you find your gift in the email. So, it's time to also share with you because today we have all the interviews and tomorrow we have the implementation part. So if living from the vision is something important for you, make sure that you show up for the workshop tomorrow, because it's going to be linked to your vision and to your future self. So it will be powerful because I'm going to share with you 5 main steps that you need to manage in order to live in your vision and make your dreams come true. And so I'm going to share a bit later what exactly we are going to work on. But again, like if living from vision is your thing, make sure that you are there tomorrow. We are going to start 1.5 hours later than today. So it's going to be 6:30 p.m. CT, which is 12:30 p.m. Eastern time. And if you want to upgrade to VIP, you can still do it. The VIP option is going to expire in a few hours. So you get access to the entire series, access to the workshop tomorrow, and access to the replay. You get a vision call with me. You get access to mind power training. That's an implementation training where you break through your emotion and thoughts that are holding you back from living a thriving life. And you also get access to a beautiful masterclass on healing wounds with the expert Troy Love. He's also like a best-selling author. So if you want to upgrade to VIP, make sure you do it now. I'm dropping the link in the chat. And we are going to invite our next guest. All right. Diane, hello, great to have you here. 1 second, please, to spotlight you. Oh, voila, you are here.
I am. I feel much bigger now.
Yes, you are literally under the spotlight.
How are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm great. Thank you so much for being here. And we are running a bit late, as you could notice. My apologies for that. And I'm happy that you are here, and we made it. Yay. It's so exciting. And we just realized that 20 minutes talks are just too short. Far too short.
I understand that. Totally do.
We kind of underestimated the time. So let me introduce you to our audience, if that's okay for you.
Absolutely.
Okay, so our next guest today is Diane Lang. She's a practicing counselor, national speaker, educator, and certified positive psychology coach. She has written 3 books and has been featured in various publications and on TV and internet shows. Diane speaks on various mental and emotional health topics, including happiness, resiliency, stress management, parenting, positive aging, anxiety, and depression in both teens and adults. Diane also specializes in positive psychology, positive education, and positive parenting. She has written books. Her latest is Mindfully Happy, Waking Up to Life. As an expert in her field, she has been featured in the Daily Record, Family Circle, Family Magazine, Working Mother Magazine, seen on NG12 TV, Good Day CT, Style CT, CBS News, and Fox and Friends. Wow. What a beautiful, powerful bio. Diane, such an honor to have you back here today.
Such an honor to be here and working with you again. So thank you for having me.
So your work is absolutely incredible, and I'm super excited about our conversation. First of all, I'd love to ask you about your story and what brought you on this path to heal the world.
Don't know if I'm actually out to heal the world, more heal one person at a time. But coming from a place where I have, had a dysfunctional childhood growing up and then going through an illness myself later on in life that I still deal with today, it really made me want to help other people, to be able to really give tips and tools that can actually impact them and make a change in their lives. Because I know for me, it really made a difference when I had all those tips and tools. And when I went to graduate school in counseling, I went to a program that was humanistic, which led into positive psychology, which has been, I'd say, a blessing, even though in the late 90s, when it first came out, not everybody was on board with it, but there's so much science behind happiness and resiliency and optimism that we can use in our lives to just really be happier, overall happier and better well-being. So I'm really excited to share some of that with everybody here today.
Thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, when talking about happiness, to start with, I'm curious, like what's happiness for you, and how can we be happy? Because everybody wants to be happy, right?
Yes.
So and yet so many people are struggling.
Yeah, it's really true. There are so many people struggling, and ever since the pandemic and the economy, we're seeing people even struggle more here in the United States. But the truth is, we can all be happier than where we are today, but we're not going to be happy every day. And I just want to put that out there. There is no always being happy, even though I study it, I teach it, I research it. We're always going to have bad days, and we're going to have days where we have negative emotions. stress, anxiety, fear, worry. I hate calling them negative because the truth is those are natural and normal emotions, but they're more intense. But we know we can balance it out and add more happiness into our lives. What makes me happy is going to be different than probably what makes you happy or everybody else here, because happiness is really individual. You know, for me, I have my dog sitting behind me snoring. So if anybody hears that, I apologize, but he just turned 12 on Saturday and I don't have the heart to wake him up. Or chocolate. I could live on chocolate, and it's really hot here in the New York area, and I love that. But, you know, I had a client this morning who was like, oh, I hate the heat, and people who'd rather have a cat or no animals, or I even found people who don't like chocolate, which I find to be very weird because chocolate is amazing, but it's very individualized. But a few things you want to think about is when you think about happiness, you want to define it for yourself. What does happiness look like? What does it feel like for you? And the other thing to think about is what makes you happy no matter what's going on in your life. So we don't want it to be what makes you happy just on a good day. So even if it's the worst day and you have the flu and it's raining out, what brings you happiness? And that happiness has to be dependent on things that are always there. We don't want to say, you know, I have clients who say, I'm really happy when my kids are happy. And absolutely, I'm really happy when my daughter is happy. But our kids will have their own life and they will move on. We need to have things that make us happy no matter what. So that's what I want you to think about. How do you define happiness? What does it look like? Maybe write out a list of like the 3 to 5 things that cultivate happiness for you. And again, don't judge it. It doesn't matter if it doesn't work for anybody else. It's just for you. And when you write out those 3 to 5 things that make you happy, that cultivate happiness for you, then I want you to look at it and say, do I actually do those things? Because if you have a nice list of what makes you happy, but you don't put it into your schedule, then it's never going to work for you. So then you want to take that list and put it into your schedule, just like you would a doctor's appointment, a business meeting, a PTA, anything. You want to make yourself a priority. So what brings happiness will also help with self-care as well, because they combine. These are things that are done for you, that cultivate happiness, that make you feel good. So take some time and really just think about that. And I know it sounds like an easy question, like how do you define happiness? But I have to tell you, it's one of the hardest questions I've seen so many people struggle with, because for a lot of us, we knew what made us happy when we were younger, right? Your teens, your tweens, even your early 20s, we're really self-absorbed because we're supposed to be. We're figuring out who we are, where we fit in, what we want to do with life. But then as we get older and you start hitting your 30s, 40s, and so on, and midlife, your happiness has been so dependent on other people, making sure your kids are okay, your spouse is okay, your boss is happy, maybe taking care of your parents, but you forget what gives you happiness. And because we're always changing and growing, what made you happy 5 years ago and 10 years ago might not be what makes you happy today. So it's really important to really sit down and kind of do a little bit of a self-evaluation, check in with yourself. What brings you happiness? And write it down and really put it into your schedule.
Thank you so much for sharing this practice. I find it powerful, and it totally like changed my life, because when I was not practicing this, I was very resentful of everything and everybody around me. So wonderful exercise. And I want to ask you, like, when we are not happy, for instance, when we don't feel happy, when we don't cultivate this happiness, what's the impact that this is going to have on our relationship dynamics? Because a lot of people are like, oh, you need to make me, you need to make me happy. That person needs to make me happy. It's like kind of expecting somebody to make you happy.
Right. And we have to start off with this information. We don't have any control over anybody but ourselves. That's the first piece. So we can't change anybody. We can't control anybody. You can only control you. So that's the first thing. So if you're trying to have people in your life who are going to bring you happiness and act the way you want them to act, you're setting yourself up for failure, because it doesn't work that way. Now, people could come into your life and relationships and enhance your happiness and, bring you some happiness. But in general, it has to be found within. It's an inside job. So if you're looking outside for happiness, then you really want to start looking inside and go, what am I trying to avoid? Why am I looking outside? Am I looking for acceptance and approval from others to bring me happiness? And a lot of us do that because we, especially women, not that men don't, because they do as well, but I see it more in women, is we have that people pleasing where we want to make sure everybody else around us is happy, that they're okay, that they're not mad at us, that they're a priority, even at the detriment to our own health. So it's really important that you look at your relationships and see, are they reciprocal? Are they mutual? And that, relationships should be two-sided, as in, yes, somebody who cheers you on, who's really happy for you when things are good, and also there for you when things aren't so good. Because we don't want relationships with conditions, that people are just there for us when it works for them. That puts conditions on it, and then we don't have as much self-disclosure, or we won't be our authentic selves out of fear of rejection or abandonment or judgment. So one of the things you can do is look at your relationships, look at the top 5 or 6 people, the handful of people you spend the most time with in your lives, and ask yourself, are these relationships positive? Are they, empowering my life? Are they making my life better? Do I enjoy their company? Are they mutual? Are they reciprocal? And really thinking about that. If you have relationships in your life that are really unfulfilling, or they're not reciprocal, or you don't even feel like you're being treated fairly, then you really want to question what's keeping you there. Why are you staying in this relationship? And a lot of times it is that people pleasing attitude of, well, I just got to make everybody else happy, and forgetting about yourself. Your relationships are so important because happiness overall is about like socialization. It's about having support system. It's about having a strong community. It's about having fun and having positive relationships, because moods and emotions are completely contagious. So if you're surrounded by a group of people that are very pessimistic, and pessimists now call themselves realists. So if you're surrounded by people who are really negative, always see the glass half empty, it's going to rub off on you because it is contagious, and negativity flies way faster than positivity. So you really want to think about your relationships and how they affect you.
Thank you so much for sharing. And while you were talking, I was having questions, but you already responded. So I'm like, okay, not this anymore, because I find it also, sometimes when people are negative, also this demand of like, you make me happy. I'm negative. I see the glass always half full, and it's somebody else's fault. And yeah, it's kind of tricky. So how do we deal with those kind of relationships, especially like, for instance, if it's a parent, or if it's a sister, or if it's a partner? What do we do?
Well, looking at your relationships, there's 2 different types. You can have negative people, like your negative Nancy, your Debbie Downers, the people who just see the glass half empty. And if you only have a few of those types of relationships, it's really not a big deal. Negative people can still be really good people where the relationship is equal, where there's a give and take. And sometimes you just got to be like, okay, enough, let's go have fun. Or, just tell them like, hey, let's just really, switch our mood and be good. And they can. But if you have some toxic people in your life, it's a whole different story. And a lot of times the toxic people who are very self-absorbed, very selfish, always surrounded by drama and chaos, they're always the victim, don't take accountability or responsibility for their actions. That type of relationship is completely different. Now, if it's someone in your life who is like that, who you can break up with, I actually suggest you do. Because those types of relationships are really tough on us. They affect our mental health, our stress levels. And the problem with a toxic person is they're always the victim, which means they don't take accountability or responsibility for their actions. So it's very hard for someone like that to change, because to change, you have to be accountable. So people can change. I just want to put that out there, but someone in that situation probably won't because they're not taking their accountability. If you can't break up with them, then it's looking at the relationship and thinking about what boundaries and limitations can you set up that are healthy for you? Because sometimes, like you said, it is a parent, it could be your own child, it could be your boss. Sometimes we don't have a choice, or we choose to keep that person in our lives for whatever the reason is, but then it's really about having boundaries. And we need boundaries for every relationship. There's nothing wrong with boundaries. They're healthy. It allows other people to know how we want to be treated, what we'll accept, what we don't accept, and what works for us. So we should always have boundaries in our lives. What happens is a lot of times when somebody's been in our lives for years, like a parent or a close friend or a sister, we have kind of flexible boundaries because they've been there so long. And because people are always changing and growing, sometimes the dynamic changes and we need to have stronger boundaries, or we need to really set firmer boundaries or remind people of our boundaries. But really important that we have boundaries and limitations, especially in those types of toxic relationships.
Right. So toxic relationships, you either break up or set strong, healthy boundaries.
Yeah. I mean, everybody makes their own choices. I've had clients who have really broken up from family relationships, and I know that is a really hard choice and something you really need to put a lot of thought into. But there are people who've done it who are much happier. I have about 3 or 4 clients at this moment who no longer talk to family members, even their own parents, and are much happier and healthier for it. That's a very hard decision to make, and not one to make lightly. But if it's acquaintances, people you're friends with who really just constantly bring you down, insulting you, criticizing you, judging you, it's a non-reciprocal relationship. There's a lot of conditions. Want to ask, why am I still in this relationship? What am I getting out of it? And for some people, they're used to the negative attention. Or again, they were raised as nurturers and they feel like they have to be in that position when we don't. Or they're people pleasers. They're looking for acceptance and approval from others. But you want to find out why you're surrounded by those types of relationships. Otherwise, we'll repeat the pattern and we'll find ourselves in those relationships again. So really doing some deep work and why am I here? What's keeping me in this relationship when it's not reciprocal?
So powerful. Thank you so much for all this information. Very useful, and absolutely it's hard.
Yeah, it's
and
very hard.
It's necessary.
It is necessary. Remember, one of the biggest boundaries, an emotional boundary, is self-care and saying no. And I know that's the hardest, especially if you're a people pleaser, and I am totally a recovering people pleaser. The thought of saying no to people is so hard. And I just want to put that out there. When you first say no, it's going to feel really uncomfortable. You're going to have a lot of discomfort. You're going to feel awkward, completely normal. It takes practice and time before you feel that comfort within saying no. But one tip, when you're going to say no, just say no. Don't explain your answer. It's just, nope, I can't. No, thanks. Because if you try to explain like, no, I wish I could. Well, maybe if and you start analyzing it, you'll either talk yourself into saying yes, or the other person will manipulate you into saying yes, and then you'll feel worse. So just say no, make it a complete sentence. Expect to feel awkward, uncomfortable, expect to have some guilt. It's not your norm, but learn from that. Why am I feeling guilty? Am I a people pleaser? What am I looking for? Was I raised like this? What's going on here? And learning to be comfortable with saying no is a really important practice.
Thank you. And on the other side of the coin is what I see that's happening nowadays is this fake positivity, if I can call it like this. And can we talk a bit about it and how, if it's good, what can we do with it? I remember I had a colleague at work years ago, and she was always in a good mood. She had no problems. Her life was perfect. Always a smile. Always, and I remember I saw her one time. She just disappeared. She was in the toilet. I went to find her. She was crying, and she was excusing herself, and she felt so much shame, and she was just like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. This is not normally me. This is not normally me. And that hit me. It was the first time when I realized that exists. So I'd love to talk a bit about it, if that's okay for you.
No, absolutely. There, a lot of people are raised, and it could be being a female, we're raised as nurturers to take care of everybody else. That could be part of it. It could be raised that culture, religion-wise. You don't show your emotions, you don't cry, that's a sign of weakness. And if they weren't raised in an environment where you learned how to communicate, or knowing that communicating your feelings was normal, you wouldn't do it. So yes, we can be happy on and off, but we're never going to be happy 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There is no Pollyanna. And I always worry, like when I have couples who come to me and they're like, oh, we don't fight. That's actually a red flag for me. If you're never fighting, you're not communicating, because we're individuals. We all have different opinions on things. There's no way that you're not going to have disagreements, and it's normal. So nobody should expect to be always happy. And no one should expect that life will be perfect. There is no such thing. And it's okay to express your emotions. When we internalize everything and push it down, or compartmentalize and put it in a box, you see what you saw with your, fellow employee. They snap, they explode, they burn out. And that can happen both physically and or emotionally. And that's not what we want. So, I have a few clients that have a really hard time communicating and, having self-disclosure of any type. And one of the things I suggest, if that's your situation where you're feeling, a lack of communication and afraid to communicate, and you're working on it, write everything down. We just need to release it. So if that's the case, just do what we call a free write. We just take pen and paper, and you just write out whatever you're feeling. No judgment, no spell, no grammar check, just writing it out as a form of release. And you can do this every day. Some people do it as, mindfulness technique every morning. I have a lot of clients who love doing it every morning to release whatever they're holding on to before they start their day. And it is a form of mindfulness as well. So you de-stress. Or if you want, you can use it when you're ready to snap, or you have a lot going on, you just write it out. And if you're afraid someone's going to find it, or you don't want to keep it, I have clients who rip it up or put it through their paper shredder, like they're releasing all the negativity. But we don't want to hold it in. You need to feel to heal. There's no way around it. If we don't feel our emotions and we're bottling them up, they're eventually going to rear their ugly head. There's no place for it to go. So unfortunately, we're always going to have bad days, and we're going to have things that happen. Life's a roller coaster ride, and that's normal, and that's okay. We should never beat ourselves up over that. Like she was, apologizing and saying this is not her norm. It's okay to feel that way. We don't always have to have good days. There's, what's that quote? It's okay to not be okay. You always see it on all the social media, something like that, but it's true. It's okay not to be okay. And it's okay to admit that. It's just part of the human experience. And that's okay.
Thank you. It's such a relief to hear it, and to hear it from a specialist like you. So and I also know that you have a powerful gift for our audience that will help them on their journey to happiness. So would you like to share about your gift?
I have an ebook that is called Cultivating Happiness, and it has 4 different tips that are in there that you can use in your everyday life that will not change your schedule, that doesn't cost a thing, and doesn't take a lot of time, because I know most of us are busy with families and career. We don't have a lot of time. And these tips, what are great about them is they're part of what we call happiness habits or happiness hygiene. So they're all science-based, and they work amazing, and they're easy to do. So if you email me, and I know that you gave out all the information, or we'll give it out, you can have a copy of the book. And it's only like 25 to 30 pages. So it's a quick, easy read, but it'll actually give you the tips, tools, and how to actually incorporate it into your life.
Wow, sounds like the perfect book. I'm putting your email in the chat. for those of you who are here right now live, make sure you email Diane and you claim your book. Shall they put something in the subject line?
They could put that they were here, or they could put the ebook in there. Either way, I will read your email. I'm really good at checking email, so I will promise that you will get a copy. And if you have any questions or thoughts, you can always email me back as well.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much. And so for those of you who are watching the recording, you will have this information in the email. So we are finishing our talk. Thank you so much for your wisdom and for sharing your knowledge with us. It was wonderful. And I hope to see you next time.
Thank you again so much for having me. It was a pleasure being here, and thank you everybody for being here.
Thank you. And time flies. All right. How do we do this?
I'm going to stay on and listen.
Oh, we are going to have a break right now. So it's what it is. It's 7:34 p.m. CT time.